The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden rays over the quiet suburban neighborhood of Atlanta, Georgia. Jasmine Carter, a bright and determined 22-year-old college student, stepped out of her car and took a deep breath. She hadn't seen her father, Marcus Carter, in weeks, and today was supposed to be a simple family dinner, a chance to catch up before his upcoming wedding. But as she walked toward the house, something about the situation felt off. Marcus had always been a good father, though his life after the divorce from Jasmine's mother had been lonely and uneventful. That changed 8 months ago when he met Vanessa online. To Jasmine, Vanessa seemed too perfect, always smiling, overly polite, and eager to please. It wasn't just her demeanor that bothered Jasmine, it was how quickly Vanessa had pushed for marriage. 8 months wasn't long enough to truly know someone, especially someone like Marcus, who tended to wear his heart on his sleeve. Inside the house, the air smelled of garlic and herbs. Marcus greeted Jasmine with a warm hug, but Vanessa stood nearby with a forced smile, clutching a glass of wine. "Jasmine, so glad you could make it," she said, her voice dripping with sweetness. Jasmine nodded politely, though her stomach churned. She didn't dislike Vanessa necessarily, but there was something about her that felt insincere. Something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Dinner started off casually enough. Marcus talked about work while Vanessa gushed about wedding plans. The ceremony was set for the following weekend, and Vanessa went into great detail about the flowers, the venue, and the guest list. Jasmine listened quietly, occasionally nodding or asking questions, but her mind kept drifting back to one nagging thought. Why did Vanessa avoid talking about her past? At one point, Jasmine asked innocently, "So, Vanessa, where are you originally from?" Vanessa froze mid-sip of her wine. Her eyes darted toward Marcus before she replied, "Oh, I've lived all over. My family moved around a lot when I was younger." The answer was vague, almost rehearsed, and it only fueled Jasmine's suspicions further. Later that night, unable to shake the feeling that something was wrong, Jasmine decided to investigate. Back at her apartment, she opened her laptop and began searching for anything she could find on Vanessa. At first, there wasn't much, just social media profiles filled with glamorous photos and carefully curated captions. But then Jasmine stumbled upon something chilling: court documents linking Vanessa to multiple cases of identity theft and fraud. Her real name wasn't even Vanessa, it was Tanya Lewis. Jasmine's heart raced as she dug deeper. She found news, articles about Tanya's previous victims, all wealthy men who had fallen for her charm and ended up losing thousands of dollars. One article included a photo of Tanya with another man, a tall, older gentleman named Gregory Thompson. What struck Jasmine most was how similar Gregory looked to Marcus. Both were middle-aged African-American men with kind faces and successful careers. Was this a coincidence? Or was Tanya targeting specific types of men? Determined to uncover more, Jasmine scoured Gregory's social media accounts. There, she discovered dozens of photos of him and Tanya together at fancy restaurants, vacations, and events. In one picture, Tanya wore a diamond bracelet identical to the one Marcus had recently bought her. The pieces were falling into place, and Jasmine felt a knot tighten in her chest. This wasn't just a hunch anymore. It was evidence. And if Marcus didn't act soon, he would become Tanya's next victim. But convincing her father wouldn't be easy. Marcus had always been stubborn, especially when it came to matters of the heart. He trusted Tanya completely, dismissing any doubts Jasmine raised as jealousy or mistrust. Still, Jasmine knew she couldn't stay silent. If she didn't intervene, her father's entire life savings, and possibly his future happiness, could be destroyed. The next morning, Jasmine returned to her father's house, armed with printed copies of the documents and photos she had gathered. She knocked on the door, heart pounding, unsure of how Marcus would react. When he opened the door, his expression softened. "Hey, sweetheart. I wasn't expecting you so early." "I need to talk to you," Jasmine said firmly, stepping inside. She spread the papers across the dining table, pointing out each piece of evidence. "Dad, this woman isn't who she says she is. Look at these records, look at these pictures, she's using you." Marcus frowned, leaning over the documents. For a moment he seemed genuinely shocked, but then his expression hardened. Jasmine, this is ridiculous. You don't understand what we have. Tanya loves me. No, Dad, you don't understand, Jasmine insisted, her voice rising. She's done this before with other men. She takes their money and disappears. Please, listen to me. Before Marcus could respond, the sound of heels clicking against the hardwood floor interrupted them. Tanya entered the room, her face pale as she took in the scene. What's going on here? She demanded, her voice sharp. Jasmine turned to face her, holding up one of the photos. This is who you really are, isn't it? Not Vanessa, but Tanya Lewis, a con artist. Tanya's lips curled into a sneer. You're lying. Your daughter is trying to ruin our relationship because she can't handle seeing you happy. Marcus hesitated, torn between the woman he loved and the daughter he trusted. Jasmine knew she needed irrefutable proof, something that would leave no room for doubt. As anger and frustration bubbled inside her, she made a decision. She would expose Tanya once and for all, no matter what it took. Little did she know, her actions would lead to a shocking confrontation and a call to 911 that would change everything. Jasmine's mind raced as she left her father's house that afternoon. She knew she needed concrete evidence, something undeniable that would force Marcus to see the truth about Tanya. Sitting in her car, she opened her laptop and began digging deeper into Tanya's past. The more she uncovered, the angrier she became. It wasn't just the fraud charges or the stolen identities. It was the pattern. Tanya had targeted at least 3 other men before Marcus, each time leaving them financially ruined and emotionally shattered. One name kept coming up in Jasmine's research: Gregory Thompson. He was the man in the photos with Tanya, the one who looked so eerily similar to Marcus. Jasmine decided to reach out to him, hoping he could provide the missing piece of the puzzle. Posing as a private investigator working on behalf of a client, she called Gregory and explained that she believed Tanya might be involved in illegal activities. To her relief, Gregory agreed to talk. Over the phone, Gregory sounded weary but willing to share his story. She almost destroyed me, he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. I met her online, same as your dad probably did. At first she seemed perfect, charming, intelligent, loving. But then I started noticing things. Money disappearing from my account, strange charges I didn't recognize. By the time I figured it out, she'd taken over $50,000. Jasmine's stomach churned as she listened. Did she ever mention anyone named Marcus? She asked cautiously. Gregory paused. No, but she did talk about finding someone new, a guy who reminded her of me. Same age, same profession, same build. His tone grew bitter. She always went for men like us, successful, trusting, easy targets. Hanging up the phone, Jasmine felt a surge of determination. She now had enough information to confront Tanya head-on, but she needed to act fast. The wedding was only days away, and once Tanya married Marcus, she'd have legal access to everything he owned. Jasmine couldn't let that happen. That evening, Jasmine returned to her father's house. This time she came prepared. She brought copies of Gregory's statements, screenshots of Tanya's fraudulent activities, and even a recording of their conversation. As she laid everything out on the dining table, Marcus stared at her in disbelief. You're telling me this woman, this person I'm about to marry, is a criminal? He asked, his voice trembling. Yes, Dad, Jasmine replied firmly. And if you don't believe me, listen to this. She pressed play on the recording of her call with Gregory. Marcus listened silently, his face growing paler with each passing second. When the recording ended, he sank into a chair, covering his face with his hands. I can't believe this, he muttered. How could I have been so blind? Before either of them could say more, the front door swung open. Tanya stood there, her expression unreadable. What's going on here? She demanded, glancing at the papers scattered across the table. Her eyes narrowed when she saw the photo of her and Gregory. Who gave you permission to snoop through my life? This isn't your life, it's a lie, Jasmine shot back, standing her ground. We know who you really are, Tanya, or should I say, Vanessa. You've done this to other men, stolen from them, and left them broken. My dad won't be your next victim. Tanya's composure cracked. For a split second, panic flashed across her face, but she quickly masked it with indignation. You're insane, she spat. Marcus, tell her to stop this nonsense. She's jealous of us, of our happiness. But Marcus didn't respond. Instead, he turned to Tanya, his voice cold. Is any of this true? Are you using me? Tanya hesitated, clearly weighing her options. Finally, she let out a humorless laugh. Fine, let's say it's true. What does it matter? You were lonely, I was lonely, we helped each other. Isn't that what relationships are about? That's not love, that's theft, Jasmine shouted, her fists clenched. You don't care about him. You never did. All you wanted was his money. Tanya's eyes narrowed dangerously. You think you're so smart, don't you? Digging into my past, playing detective. Well, guess what? I'm calling the police. You've been harassing me, stalking me. See how far your little crusade gets you when they drag you away. Without waiting for a response, Tanya pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Jasmine's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't anticipated this twist. As Tanya calmly reported a disturbance at the house, claiming Jasmine was threatening her, Marcus finally spoke up. Wait, he said, stepping between them. This isn't right. Jasmine is trying to protect me. You're the one who's lying. Tanya rolled her eyes. Oh, please, like they'll believe you over me. Look at her, she's obsessed. She's been snooping around, accusing me of God knows what. Trust me, Marcus, she's unstable. The sound of sirens grew louder outside. Within minutes, 2 police officers arrived, their expressions stern. They separated everyone to get individual statements. One officer questioned Marcus, while the other took Jasmine aside. Can you explain what's going on here? He asked, his tone neutral. Jasmine took a deep breath and began recounting everything, from her initial suspicions to the evidence she had gathered. She showed the officers the court documents, the photos, and the recording of her conversation with Gregory. Meanwhile, Tanya sobbed dramatically, insisting she was the victim of Jasmine's relentless harassment. As the officers reviewed the materials, tension filled the room. Tanya paced nervously, occasionally shooting venomous glares at Jasmine. Then something unexpected happened. While the officers were distracted, Tanya made a break for the door. Stop her, Jasmine yelled, pointing toward the fleeing figure. One of the officers immediately chased after her, grabbing her arm before she could escape. As they brought her back inside, Jasmine noticed something, a tattoo on Tanya's wrist. It was small, but distinctive, a rose intertwined with thorns. Her heart leapt. Earlier, during her call with Gregory, he had mentioned that exact tattoo. It was Tanya's signature mark, something she used to taunt her victims. Look at this, Jasmine said, showing the officers a close-up photo of Tanya's tattoo from Gregory's social media page. It matches. This proves she's the same person who scammed him. The officers exchanged glances, their skepticism giving way to realization. With mounting evidence against her, Tanya's facade crumbled completely. She collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. Okay, she admitted bitterly. Yes, I lied. Yes, I took advantage of those men, but I didn't hurt anyone. Not really. They all had plenty of money to spare. Her confession sealed her fate. The officers placed her under arrest, reading her rights as they led her out of the house in handcuffs. Marcus watched silently, his shoulders slumped with shame and exhaustion. Jasmine approached him, placing a hand on his arm. Dad, I'm sorry it had to come to this, she said softly. But I couldn't let her take everything from you. Marcus nodded, pulling her into a tight hug. Thank you, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know what I would have done without you. As the chaos subsided, Jasmine felt a mix of relief and unease. The immediate danger was over, but the fallout was just beginning. Marcus would need time to heal from the betrayal, and Jasmine knew their family dynamic had shifted forever. Still, she couldn't deny the sense of accomplishment she felt. Against all odds, she had saved her father from ruin and uncovered the shocking truth about the woman who had nearly torn their lives apart. Little did they know, however, that this wasn't the end of the story. In the days to come, revelations about Tanya's past would continue to surface, drawing them deeper into a web of deceit and danger. But for now, father and daughter stood together, united by love and resilience. And as they embraced under the dim light of the living room, Jasmine realized that sometimes the hardest battles bring people closer than ever before. The aftermath of Tanya's arrest left the Carter household in a state of quiet chaos. Marcus sat at the dining table, staring blankly at the stack of papers Jasmine had gathered as evidence. His hands trembled slightly as he flipped through court documents, photos, and Gregory's statements. Each page was a reminder of how close he had come to disaster. He felt foolish, angry, and betrayed, all at once. But above all, he felt grateful. Grateful that his daughter had been brave enough to step in when he couldn't see the truth. Jasmine, on the other hand, was exhausted. The adrenaline that had fueled her during the confrontation with Tanya had worn off, leaving her drained both physically and emotionally. She slumped onto the couch, watching her father struggle to process everything. Part of her wanted to comfort him, but another part wondered if he would ever fully understand the gravity of what had happened. "Dad," she said softly, breaking the silence. "Are you okay?" Marcus looked up, his eyes bloodshot and weary. "I don't know," he admitted. "I thought I knew her. I really did. How could I have been so blind?" "It's not your fault," Jasmine replied quickly. "She's good at what she does, manipulating people, lying. It's like second nature to her. You weren't the only one who fell for it." Her words offered little solace. Marcus sighed heavily, running a hand over his face. "Still, I should have seen it. I should have trusted my instincts instead of ignoring them." Jasmine nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. For weeks she had ignored her own gut feelings about Tanya, dismissing them as paranoia or jealousy. It wasn't until she started digging that she realized just how dangerous Tanya truly was. Now, sitting here with her father, she understood why he had clung so tightly to the illusion of love. It filled a void he hadn't known how to address on his own. As the night wore on, they talked more openly than they had in years. Marcus confessed his loneliness after the divorce, how hard it had been to raise Jasmine alone while juggling work and personal struggles. He spoke about meeting Tanya online and how quickly she had swept him off his feet. "It felt too good to be true," he admitted, "and now I know why." Jasmine listened intently, realizing how vulnerable her father had been. Losing trust in someone you care about was painful enough. But losing trust in yourself? That was something else entirely. She vowed silently to help him rebuild, not just financially but emotionally. The next morning, Marcus decided to call Gregory Thompson. Armed with the phone number Jasmine had found, he dialed nervously, unsure of what to expect. When Gregory answered, his voice was cautious but warm. After exchanging introductions, Marcus explained the situation. "I think we've both been played by the same person," he said, his tone heavy with regret. Gregory chuckled bitterly. "Yeah, sounds about right. Did she take your money too?" "Not yet," Marcus replied grimly. "But she almost did. My daughter stopped her before things got worse." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Your daughter sounds like a hero," Gregory said finally. "Mine? Well, let's just say I didn't have anyone looking out for me." They spent the next hour sharing stories, how Tanya had wormed her way into their lives, the lies she told, the damage she caused. By the end of the conversation, Marcus felt a strange sense of camaraderie with Gregory. They were victims, yes, but they were also survivors. And knowing he wasn't alone made the burden feel a little lighter. Meanwhile, Jasmine reached out to Gregory as well, thanking him for his cooperation and offering to share any additional evidence she had uncovered. To her surprise, Gregory seemed genuinely appreciative. "You're doing the right thing," he told her. "Women like her need to be exposed. If you hadn't stepped in, she might have kept going forever." Encouraged by Gregory's support, Jasmine decided to take things a step further. She contacted local news outlets hoping to warn others about Tanya's schemes. At first, she was hesitant. What if people judged her for airing her family's dirty laundry? But then she remembered Gregory's words. Women like her need to be exposed. This wasn't just about protecting her father anymore. It was about stopping Tanya from hurting anyone else. Within days, the story gained traction. Reporters interviewed Jasmine, Marcus, and even Gregory, piecing together a narrative that painted Tanya as a master manipulator. The public reaction was swift and fierce. Social media lit up with comments from people who had encountered similar scams, sharing their own harrowing experiences. For the first time, Jasmine felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this nightmare could lead to something positive, a chance to educate others and prevent future victims. Despite the progress, the fallout continued to ripple through their lives. Friends and family members called daily, offering condolences and advice. Some were supportive while others couldn't resist pointing fingers. "How could you not see this coming?" one relative asked bluntly. Marcus winced at the question, though he knew it was fair. He had been reckless, naive, and overly trusting. But dwelling on those mistakes wouldn't change the past. To cope, Marcus threw himself into work, using long hours at the office as a distraction. Jasmine, however, noticed a shift in his behavior. He became quieter, more withdrawn, often zoning out during conversations. One evening, she confronted him about it. "Dad, are you sure you're okay?" she asked gently. "You seem distant." He hesitated before answering. "I'm just trying to figure out where I went wrong," he admitted. "Was it me? Was I too desperate? Too lonely?" "No," Jasmine said firmly. "None of this is your fault. She chose to lie to you, to manipulate you. Don't let her make you doubt yourself." Her words struck a chord. Slowly, Marcus began to accept that he wasn't responsible for Tanya's actions. What mattered now was moving forward and learning from the experience. A few weeks later, Marcus received an update from the police. Tanya had been formally charged with multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and extortion. Her bail hearing revealed that she had outstanding warrants in 2 other states, meaning she wouldn't be walking free anytime soon. Marcus felt a mix of relief and vindication. Justice was being served, albeit slowly. Jasmine celebrated the news quietly, knowing the fight wasn't entirely over. Tanya's arrest was a victory, but the emotional scars would take longer to heal. Still, she took pride in what she had accomplished. She had saved her father, exposed a predator, and given a voice to others who had suffered in silence. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Marcus turned to Jasmine with a smile. "You know," he said, "you remind me of your mom sometimes. She was always the strong one, the one who kept us grounded." Jasmine smiled back, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Well, somebody has to look out for you," she teased. They laughed together, the sound mingling with the gentle breeze. For the first time in months, there was peace. Fragile, tentative, but real. They still had a long road ahead, but they faced it together, stronger than ever. Little did they know, the story was far from over. In the shadows, whispers of Tanya's accomplices began to surface, hinting at a larger network of deception. But for now, father and daughter savored the moment, grateful for the bond that had carried them through the storm. The weeks following Tanya's arrest brought a mix of relief and unease to the Carter household. Marcus and Jasmine had begun to settle into a new rhythm, slowly piecing their lives back together. Yet, beneath the surface, lingering questions remained. Who else had been involved in Tanya's schemes? Was she truly acting alone, or was there something bigger at play? It started with a phone call, a number neither Marcus nor Jasmine recognized. When Marcus answered, a man's voice came through, low and hesitant. "Mr. Carter, my name is Daniel Hayes. I think we need to talk." Daniel explained that he was an investigator working on behalf of several victims of identity theft and fraud, many of whom had connections to Tanya. He revealed that Tanya wasn't just a lone scammer. She was part of a larger network of con artists who preyed on vulnerable individuals. "We've been tracking this group for months," Daniel said. Your case gave us a breakthrough, but there's more to uncover. Marcus felt his stomach drop. The thought of Tanya being linked to an organized operation sent chills down his spine. Jasmine, overhearing the conversation, immediately joined her father. What's going on? She asked, concern etched on her face. When Marcus explained the situation, Jasmine's mind raced. If Tanya was part of a network, then exposing her might only scratch the surface. They needed to dig deeper to ensure no one else would fall victim to these predators. Without hesitation, Jasmine agreed to meet with Daniel. The meeting took place at a quiet cafe downtown. Daniel arrived carrying a folder filled with documents, photos, and notes. He introduced himself as a freelance investigator hired by victims' families to bring justice to those responsible. Tanya, or whatever her real name is, isn't the mastermind here, he explained. She's a pawn, albeit a skilled one. The real orchestrators operate from behind the scenes. Jasmine leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. Who are they? Daniel hesitated before answering. That's what we're trying to figure out. From what we know, this group targets wealthy professionals, especially men over 40 who are recently divorced or widowed. They use fake profiles, charm, and manipulation to gain trust. Once they have access to finances, they drain accounts and disappear. Marcus frowned, shaking his head. How does anyone not see through that? It's not always easy, Daniel replied. These people are experts at exploiting emotions. Loneliness, insecurity, fear. They know exactly how to push buttons. And once they've got someone hooked, it's almost impossible to break free. Jasmine listened intently, her mind connecting dots. She remembered Gregory mentioning similar tactics during their call. It wasn't just about money, it was about control. These scammers didn't just steal wealth, they shattered lives. As Daniel continued, he revealed another alarming detail. Tanya had accomplices. One name kept coming up, a woman known only as Lila. According to intercepted communications, Lila acted as a recruiter, finding potential marks and passing them along to operatives like Tanya. If we can find Lila, Daniel said, we might be able to dismantle the entire operation. Jasmine's heart raced. This was bigger than she had imagined. What began as a personal mission to protect her father had evolved into something far more significant, a chance to take down an entire criminal enterprise. But it wouldn't be easy. Tracking Lila meant entering dangerous territory, risking exposure and retaliation. Determined to help, Jasmine threw herself into the investigation. With Daniel's guidance, she learned how to analyze patterns in online behavior, trace IP addresses, and decode encrypted messages. Together, they combed through social media profiles, financial records, and public databases, searching for clues that could lead them to Lila. One night, while reviewing old posts on Tanya's fake accounts, Jasmine stumbled upon a comment thread that caught her attention. A user named LuxLife89 had interacted with Tanya multiple times, leaving cryptic messages that seemed harmless at first glance, but hinted at something deeper. This has to be her, Jasmine whispered, showing the screen to Daniel. He nodded, impressed by her instincts. Good catch. Let's see if we can track this account. Using advanced software, they traced LuxLife89's activity to a location in Miami. Further digging revealed that the account belonged to a woman named Lisa Monroe, a former model turned lifestyle coach. Her polished image and charismatic personality made her the perfect front for such a scheme. With this new information, Daniel contacted authorities in Florida, urging them to investigate Lisa. Meanwhile, Jasmine reached out to other victims, sharing updates and gathering support. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of people came forward, eager to contribute to the case. Some provided evidence, while others offered testimonials detailing their encounters with members of the network. Back home, Marcus struggled to process everything. While Jasmine dove headfirst into the investigation, he found himself grappling with guilt and shame. Despite knowing he wasn't to blame for Tanya's actions, he couldn't shake the feeling that he should have seen the signs sooner. Nights were the hardest. Alone with his thoughts, he replay, wanna continue? As the investigation into Lila, whose real name was Lisa Monroe, intensified, Jasmine and Daniel uncovered a web of deceit that stretched far beyond what they had initially imagined. The network wasn't just limited to online scams. It involved money laundering, stolen identities, and even blackmail. Each layer they peeled back revealed more victims, each with their own tragic story. For Jasmine, this realization only fueled her determination to see justice served. One evening, after hours spent analyzing data, Daniel turned to Jasmine with a serious expression. "We're getting close," he said. "Too close. If Lisa finds out we're onto her, she might try to disappear or worse." Jasmine nodded, understanding the risks, but backing down wasn't an option. She had come too far to let fear stop her now. "What's our next move?" she asked. Daniel explained that they needed concrete evidence linking Lisa directly to Tanya and the other operatives. That meant finding proof of communication or financial transactions between them. To do this, they would need access to encrypted files stored on Lisa's devices. Breaking into those files required technical expertise and potentially dangerous infiltration. "I can handle the tech side," Jasmine volunteered without hesitation. Her college courses in computer science had given her a solid foundation, and she'd learned even more during her collaboration with Daniel. Still, hacking into someone's private information carried legal and personal risks. One wrong step could land her in serious trouble or put her in harm's way. Daniel hesitated but ultimately agreed, impressed by Jasmine's resolve. "Just be careful," he warned. "If anything feels off, pull back immediately." The plan came together over the next few days. Using software designed to bypass security protocols, Jasmine managed to breach Lisa's cloud storage. What she found inside chilled her to the bone. Spreadsheets listing names, addresses, and bank account details of potential targets, chat logs detailing strategies for manipulating victims, and photos of luxurious vacations funded by stolen money. Among the files was a folder labeled Active Ops, containing detailed profiles of men currently being targeted, including Marcus. Jasmine's hands trembled as she scrolled through the documents. It was one thing to suspect Lisa's involvement. It was another to see irrefutable proof. She forwarded everything to Daniel, who immediately contacted law enforcement agencies in Miami and Atlanta. With this new evidence, authorities moved quickly to secure arrest warrants for Lisa and several others implicated in the scheme. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, disaster struck. While reviewing surveillance footage of Lisa's movements, investigators discovered that she had gone dark. No credit card activity, no phone calls, no social media posts. It was as if she had vanished overnight. Panic set in among the team. Had she caught wind of the investigation? Was she planning to flee the country? Jasmine refused to give up. She knew Lisa wouldn't abandon her operation entirely, not when there was still so much money to be made. Digging deeper, she focused on Lisa's last known location, a high-end apartment complex in downtown Miami. Using satellite imagery and traffic camera feeds, she identified a black SUV frequently parked outside the building. Cross-referencing license plate records, she traced the vehicle to a shell company linked to Lisa's alias. "This is it," Jasmine told Daniel excitedly. "She's still here. We just need to act fast." Law enforcement launched a coordinated raid on Lisa's apartment early the next morning. SWAT teams surrounded the building while undercover agents monitored exits. Inside, Lisa was caught off guard, lounging on a plush couch with a glass of wine in hand. When officers burst through the door, she dropped the glass, shattering it. Across the floor, "Lisa Monroe, you're under arrest," one officer announced, reading her rights as they cuffed her. A quick search of the premises revealed stacks of cash, forged documents, and multiple laptops containing incriminating evidence. It was clear that Lisa had been operating as the ringleader of the entire network. News of her arrest spread like wildfire. Reporters swarmed the scene, eager to capture every detail. Victims from across the country came forward, sharing stories of how Lisa's network had devastated their lives. For many, seeing her handcuffed and led away brought a sense of closure they hadn't thought possible. Back in Atlanta, Marcus watched the coverage with mixed emotions. Relief washed over him knowing that Lisa, and by extension Tanya, would face consequences for their actions. Yet, anger simmered beneath the surface. How could anyone be so cruel, so calculating? He couldn't shake the image of Lisa sitting comfortably in her luxury apartment while destroying lives without remorse. Jasmine, on the other hand, felt a surge of triumph. Their relentless pursuit of justice had paid off, but as she celebrated, she also reflected on the toll the ordeal had taken. Sleepless nights, constant stress, and the weight of responsibility had left her physically and emotionally drained. Still, she knew it was worth it. They had saved not only Marcus but countless others from ruin. In the weeks that followed, life began to return to normal, or as close to normal as it could get. Marcus reconnected with old friends, rebuilding relationships he had neglected during his time with Tanya. Work provided a welcome distraction, allowing him to focus on something positive. Slowly but surely, he regained confidence in himself and his ability to trust again. For Jasmine, the experience sparked a newfound passion. Inspired by her role in exposing Lisa's network, she decided to pursue investigative journalism full-time. Her professors praised her dedication and resourcefulness, encouraging her to apply for internships at major news outlets. Though daunting, the prospect excited her. She wanted to continue shining a light on injustice, giving voices to those who couldn't speak for themselves. Father and daughter grew closer than ever, bonded by the shared trauma of the past months. They spent evenings talking about the future, dreaming of possibilities once unimaginable. Marcus often joked that Jasmine should write a book about their ordeal, though neither of them ruled out the idea entirely. Yet, even as they moved forward, reminders of the past lingered. One day, while cleaning out Marcus's study, Jasmine stumbled upon a small box tucked away in a drawer. Inside were letters and mementos from Tanya, gifts, notes, and photographs meant to symbolize their relationship. Jasmine stared at them, torn between anger and sadness. Part of her wanted to destroy the items, erasing all traces of Tanya from their lives. But another part recognized their significance. They represented survival, resilience, and the strength of family. Handing the box to Marcus, she said simply, "It's your choice. Keep them or toss them. Either way, we've already won." Marcus smiled, placing the box aside. "Let's leave it for now. Maybe someday we'll look back and laugh at how close we came to losing everything." As they embraced, Jasmine realized that healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about remembering and choosing to rise above. Together, they had faced darkness and emerged stronger. And though challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, united by love and determination. Little did they know, however, that Lisa's arrest wasn't the end of the story. Hidden in the shadows, whispers of retaliation began to surface, hinting at unfinished business. But for now, father and daughter cherished the moment, grateful for the bond that had carried them through the storm. The sense of victory that followed Lisa's arrest was short-lived. While Marcus and Jasmine tried to move on with their lives, unsettling signs began to emerge. It started with small things: a strange car parked outside their house late at night, an unfamiliar number calling repeatedly only to hang up when answered, and cryptic messages left on social media accounts. At first, they dismissed these incidents as coincidences or the work of overzealous reporters still chasing the story. But as the occurrences grew more frequent and more threatening, they realized something sinister was afoot. One evening, while Marcus was out running errands, Jasmine noticed someone lurking near the edge of their property. The figure wore a hoodie pulled low over their face, making it impossible to identify them. Instinctively, she grabbed her phone and snapped a photo before retreating indoors. When Marcus returned home, she showed him the picture, her hands trembling slightly. "Do you think it's connected to Lisa?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. Marcus frowned, his protective instincts kicking in. I don't know, he admitted, but we can't ignore this. We need to tell the police. They filed a report, providing all the evidence they had, gathered the photos, the mysterious calls, and the online harassment. Officers assured them they would investigate, but warned that without concrete proof tying these incidents to Lisa or her associates, there wasn't much they could do beyond increasing patrols in the area. Frustrated, yet determined, Jasmine vowed to stay vigilant. She installed additional security cameras around the house and downloaded apps to monitor unusual activity. Still, the feeling of being watched lingered like a shadow, unshakable and ominous. Meanwhile, news of Lisa's trial dominated headlines. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence linking her to dozens of victims across multiple states. Testimonies from those affected painted a harrowing picture of manipulation, betrayal, and financial ruin. Among the witnesses was Gregory Thompson, who recounted how Lisa's network had nearly destroyed him, both emotionally and financially. His words resonated deeply with Marcus, who listened intently during court proceedings. Lisa, however, remained defiant throughout the trial. Dressed impeccably in designer suits, she smirked at prosecutors and rolled her eyes during testimonies. Her arrogance infuriated Jasmine, who attended the hearings alongside her father. She doesn't even care, Jasmine whispered to Marcus one day after leaving the courtroom. It's like none of this touches her. But despite Lisa's bravado, the jury ultimately found her guilty on all charges. Cheers erupted in the courtroom as the verdict was read aloud. Victims hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. For many, this moment marked the end of a long and painful chapter. Yet Jasmine couldn't shake the nagging feeling that justice hadn't been fully served. As Lisa was led away in handcuffs, she locked eyes with Jasmine for a brief second, a fleeting glance filled with cold indifference. It sent chills down Jasmine's spine. Back home, life slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as possible. Marcus threw himself into work, finding solace in routine. Jasmine focused on her studies and internship applications, eager to build a future rooted in purpose and resilience. But the lingering threats continued to haunt them. One night, as Jasmine scrolled through her laptop, she received an anonymous email containing a single sentence. "You should have stayed out of it." Her heart raced as she showed the message to Marcus. "This isn't over," she said grimly. "Someone's still out there." Determined to uncover the truth, Jasmine reached out to Daniel Hayes, the investigator who had helped them expose Lisa. Together, they analyzed the email's metadata, tracing its origin to a public library in Atlanta. It wasn't much, but it gave them a starting point. Over the next few days, they staked out the location, watching for anyone suspicious. Their patience paid off when they spotted a man entering the building, someone Jasmine recognized instantly. It was one of Lisa's former accomplices, a man named Eric who had narrowly avoided arrest during the initial investigation. Confronting Eric proved risky, but Jasmine knew they couldn't afford to wait. With Daniel's help, they cornered him in a quiet alley behind the library. "Who sent you?" Jasmine demanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Eric hesitated, clearly caught off guard. Finally, he relented. "Look, I'm not here to hurt anyone," he muttered. "Lisa promised me protection if I kept tabs on you two, that's all." "Kept tabs?" Jasmine pressed. "What does that mean?" "She wanted to make sure you didn't dig any deeper," Eric admitted. "She's got friends in high places, people who aren't afraid to use force if necessary." Jasmine exchanged a worried glance with Daniel. This was worse than they had feared. Lisa's network extended far beyond what authorities had uncovered, and some of her allies were still free and dangerous. Armed with this new information, Jasmine and Daniel alerted law enforcement, urging them to widen their search for Lisa's remaining accomplices. Investigators acted swiftly, raiding several locations tied to the network. Dozens of arrests followed, dismantling key operations and seizing millions of dollars in stolen assets. Each bust brought a sense of relief, but Jasmine knew the fight wasn't entirely over. Criminals like Lisa thrived in secrecy, and rooting them out completely would take time. As weeks turned into months, the threats against Marcus and Jasmine gradually subsided. Whether it was due to increased police presence or the dismantling of Lisa's operation, they weren't sure. What mattered most was that they felt safe again, or safer, at least. They celebrated the victories quietly, savoring moments of peace and normalcy. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Marcus turned to Jasmine with a grateful smile. "You saved me," he said simply. "Not just from Tanya, but from myself. I'll never forget that." Jasmine smiled back, her heart swelling with pride. "We saved each other," she replied, "and we're stronger because of it." Their bond had deepened through adversity, transforming them into a team capable of facing anything. Though scars remained, emotional reminders of the battles they had fought, they chose to focus on the lessons learned. Trust your instincts, stand up for what's right, and never underestimate the power of family. Years later, Jasmine became a renowned investigative journalist, known for exposing corruption and advocating for justice. Her articles inspired change, giving voice to the voiceless and holding wrongdoers accountable. Marcus, meanwhile, rebuilt his life with renewed purpose, cherishing every moment spent with his daughter. Together they proved that even in the darkest times, resilience and love could light the way forward. And though whispers of Lisa's network occasionally surfaced, reminding them of unfinished business, Marcus and Jasmine faced the world with courage. They had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious, not unscathed, but unbroken. In the end, their story wasn't just about survival. It was about triumph, redemption, and the enduring strength of the human spirit.